Hi, thanks for agreeing to speak with me. My project looks at how universities often present themselves as diverse, progressive, and socially aware, but obviously student activism and ethnic studies are still sometimes marginalized, controlled, or treated as symbolic rather than central to institutional change. Before we begin, can you briefly introduce yourself and explain your connection to ethnic studies, student activism, or university organizing?
So my name is Bola. I'm currently I guess I would be a second year mathematics student at UPenn. And I mean, I feel that ethnic studies are definitely a very important part to my culture because I am Chinese and my parents are both immigrants. So I feel that even though I'm not like currently, I guess I would say studying that at UPenn, it's definitely a deep part of my culture.
Do you feel that at your campus, student activism was taken seriously by the university?
Um, I mean, I think like taking seriously is like kind of a hard thing to describe, but like I would say they kind of like take one it's like kind of one-sided in a sense that they care about it, but they don't care about it the right way. So they essentially they only care about it if it affects them badly, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Um and I think an example of this was like when obviously Israel-Palestine conflicts are still like happening right now. But I think
yeah,
it like flared up pretty like badly towards the like public, I would say, like when the general public kind of makes an issue like really big, then they start to like essentially try to get like larger corporations or like whether it be universities or maybe just like companies in general to kind of like put a statement out. Um
mhm,
and while this was occurring, I think there were like a lot of people that were kind of pushing Penn to put a statement out. Especially because Penn has a lot of Jewish donors. So obviously they would want a statement that would support their side, but Penn did not like they were kind of like neutral in a sense. And as a result, I think they threatened to essentially not give a lot of money. And at the end of the day, college is a business. So when there's a lot of money involved, you kind of I
yeah.
guess the college wants to go or like kind of just instead of taking like a real decision, they just rather make the decision that benefits them the most, which would be to side with, I guess, the Jewish donors, as opposed to like
Yeah.
give like, I guess, like a real response that they would care about. It's kind of like a
Mhm.
forced response. So I guess like yes, they take it seriously in that sense, but obviously like if you're a um someone that's like pro-Palestine, then it's like okay, that's such an unserious response because they obviously did not think about the other side. They only care about their own opinions as opposed to like the general student body as a whole.
Yeah. So when it comes to something like Israel Palestine, why do you think that like students in general are not more active, I guess, like or like
Um, I mean, I think one thing is like, okay, obviously, like in our generation, cancel culture is a really big thing. And I think you like because we're like on the internet so much, you're kind of accustomed to like know what things you should say and what things you should not say to some extent. And you
yeah,
can't say very like um strong statements towards like one side because you'll get a lot of backlash. Whether that would be just like online backlash or it might even be like some administrative like discipline. Like that could be like obviously an extreme example is like if you support one side, maybe the school would just force you to take a semester off. And I think that has occurred with some protesters. But I think just knowing like what the punishment I think punishment is a bad word actually, because I guess it would be a punishment, but like knowing what the consequences would mean, I think that's what I was trying to say. You kind of have like um an idea of what you want to side with and whether or not you even want to say it out loud. And because most people realize that it's probably not in their best interest to say it out loud because they would be putting so much on the line. Um, there's not a lot of people that want to speak out towards one side. And
that's true.
I think although like it's a combination of both, like people don't want to speak out. I think once you have the stigma of if I speak out, bad things may occur, you kind of care less about it. I would say. Like it's kind of just like um or I guess like in general, you just like try to stay away from it because you don't want to like
Yeah,
be at the point where you're like forced to either make a decision between speaking out and like risking whether it be like your college experience or
yeah,
not speaking out and then like having a lot of backlash from I mean maybe your family, I don't really know.
yeah.
But um
Um,
mhm,
we've seen before, obviously at Penn, other elite institutions that like many students like do end up speaking out, right? Um,
right.
and like these protests eventually get shut down, like the police get involved.
Mhm,
Um, and like it kind of shows that these elite institutions are kind of like shameless. Like they're willing to like kind of like publicly they say it's like a security issue, but like any student would know like looking at this that like they're using it as a cover up, right? So they're basically admitting that like their donors, as you said, like the money is more important than like the student populace. But in my opinion, like you don't have to agree, but like I think like when a certain number of students like are pushing for something, like the school like will eventually have to concede. And like it's debatable like about what this percentage is, but like I'd say it's like more than like when a certain like percentage of students like like if a certain percentage of students do speak out, then like eventually like in my opinion change will happen, right? Like at these
yeah,
protests,
I
like you
think
said,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Um
like like at these protests, it's still probably like less than 10% of students like
right,
actually like
yeah,
actively like out there,
yeah.
right? So is there something that like students can do? Maybe like a smaller, like obviously like students will like sign like a petition or something, right? But is there
Mhm.
like a more substantial change that we can see like by the general student populace over
I mean,
something like
I think it's like kind of like an issue of just like power. Like obviously like if you have the whole student population, you have a lot of power there. So just
yeah,
like how much power can a student carry in general? I think like if you're talking about like having more power, like you kind of need people that are higher up in this like maybe not social ladder, but just like obviously a professor is going to have more power than a student. So if you have like professors or like I mean, I don't know about like governors, like something in like just someone in general that has more power. I can't really give an example at the moment, honestly, but
yeah,
you can definitely like create change that way. But I think the like whenever you ask someone for like a favor like that, it's very hard to do because of what I said earlier. Like there is a lot on the line when you make like change. Whether that might just be your job's in jeopardy, right?
yeah,
And it's very like you can't also just have like someone just like you can't just like get their name down. It's not as easy as that. You can't just be like, oh yeah, this like professor signed my petition, so we kind of have them on our side. I think that's also like
yeah,
not
yeah. Okay.
that's like you kind of they just like signed it.
That's
Who cares, right?
yeah.
I don't think that means anything. So it's like you kind of have to like go all in a sense. And when you go all
Mhm.
in, you're risking so much, and most people are just not willing to take that risk unless they're already very like they feel very strongly about the opinion and their opinion about like some whatever topic it might be, right? And because there are not that many people outside of like activists in general, like I would say like your average like government official is not going to be taking a stance like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so because there are not many people willing to take stands like that because they definitely have a lot on the line if something would go wrong. It's very hard for like just students to
mhm,
make a change. So
yeah. There are like ethnic professors, right? Like,
yeah.
why do you think it is that like these professors struggle to speak out about like topics like this?
Um
Like sorry, but like Terrence Tao, for example, like he spoke publicly about like U.S. government policy towards like science funding, right? That's like a
yeah, right.
pretty common
hmm
example, right?
hmm
But like it's not like a statement to where like he's like protesting, right? He just like commented about
Yeah.
like the U.S. government policy, and like there's obviously like a number of other professors like at Berkeley, for example, Judith Butler. She actually signed like the philosophy for Palestine letter, which denounced the violence in Gaza. So there are like professors that are willing to speak out, but not like to the degree that we want, right? Like
hmm
I think the degree that we want is pretty high. Like it's not
Right.
like you're basically like putting your career on the line, right? For
Yeah.
what I see.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I know like there have been some schools where yes, there definitely have been professors that like go out and speak on these things, go to these protests. But on the other hand, I've seen like very extreme examples, like or like sorry, very extreme consequences of this where like I mean, I don't know their name. I think I saw this like maybe on Twitter like a year ago, but like it was just like people were just like full on doxing a professor because they showed up to this protest and they obviously did not like the opinions this
Crazy.
person was giving. And they were like people online are very cruel. They
Yeah.
I mean they have a lot of time on their hands on top of
Yeah.
that. So they just like they will go out and try to ruin your life. And clearly I think like at the end of the day, it is like every man for themselves in some way. And like if you go to a protest as a professor and suddenly your whole job is on the line and you can't like feed your family and stuff like that, then like maybe the payoff is not worth it. Or I would say the payoff is not worth it in my opinion.
Mhm.
So like
Do you
I think I don't know.
I think another question I could ask is like, do you think tenured professors have a responsibility to speak when students are being punished for activism?
I mean, in theory, I mean, I don't think you'd ever say like I think no one has a responsibility to say anything
Yeah.
at the end of the day. I think it is their own opinion. But I mean, I feel like this kind of boils down to the point where like just not enough people care about a certain topic. And I guess like going back to the case with like the Jewish donors, like the people that do care are overpowering in a sense that like it's very hard for the other side to come back.
I
Um,
understand.
like I mean, in that case, it's like even if I do care, what's the point? They will still side with one side. There's some like sense in like I not enough people care, and in the case where they do care, it's like they might be fighting a one-sided battle. There needs to be some like overall change in like society, and maybe not just like college, like one specific institution in general. That's like it's just like a bigger issue, essentially, not just like
Yeah.
whatever like can.
Like
Um,
I think it's clear that like professors like do not or like they really can't like have or they really do not have a responsibility to take like a political side. But
yeah,
like what about the responsibility to protecting like students' rights like to speak or protest?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, everyone deserves an opinion, regardless.
Hmm.
I think it's true that everyone has an opinion, but some people's opinions weigh more.
Yeah.
And I think like people think like, oh yeah, everyone has an opinion, and like some people say like, oh yeah, these colleges are oppressing the people that are like trying to speak out. But I
Yeah.
think it's more in the sense that like the opposing side has more power, and rather than like they can like the college is kind of just like controlled by the people with more power. So although like
Hmm.
one side is speaking their opinions out, it kind of doesn't matter. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, obviously this is not going to be the case everywhere. Some
Yeah.
colleges, yeah, they're just going to straight up like shut down whoever's speaking out
Hmm.
just because they don't want to like take a stance in general. Obviously,
Yeah.
some colleges are not going to want to take a stance because like even when you start to take a stance, you're going to have enemies on the other side.
Hmm.
So I think that's an issue as well. But um, I mean, I kind of understand like both ends. Like when you kind of like shut them down, I guess like if they can suppress it, it force like allows them to not have to take a side. But like obviously, I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm not the college, am I? So
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Mhm. Do you think there's anything that could actually force the university to change? Um,
I
because
mean, it
like you
has
can
to be
see that public
someone
pressure.
with more power. At the
Yeah,
end of the day, I think
like
it's like
like
all
like
like a ladder.
yeah. I think I talked about like if a majority of the student populace like
Yeah.
push or something. Um, this actually happened, or like it didn't happen, but like a lot of students like at Berkeley, they basically they pressured like the dean or like the chancellor at the time to like of course, like divest from Israel, and she's like, okay, like I will look into like if the donors align with like Berkeley's like or like mission or something, and like
Hmm.
eventually she like when it came down to like the Israeli donors, right? She was just like she basically didn't do anything,
Hmm.
um, which kind of shows that like okay, like even if like a majority of the student population like pressures uh like the school to do something, right? Like they always have like a way to like kind of like sneak out of it, like
Yeah.
because like I guess they have no obligation to actually like change, right? And when it's like something so like that they rely on so much, it's like or like donor influence is like so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I
like,
mean,
do you
mhm.
think there's a point like these universities already know like what kind of activisms might threaten their reputation? Like, do you think there's a point where like they will sacrifice their donor money to appeal to like just like the amount of like um I guess like things that are being put on their name, right? Like for example, if it was like something like a lot more like heinous, right? Like something that like a lot of people would agree with, if that makes sense. Like if it was like a cause that like a majority of the people agree with, and then the school like actively like says no to that, right? Like I think like Israel Palestine's pretty split, right? But if
Yeah.
it was like something that was like a lot more serious, then of course like the school like has to concede, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think like if they don't concede, like it's kind of like it's like a payoff end of the day, right? It's like if they
Yeah,
don't concede, they lose all their students, which means they lose a lot of money.
yeah,
And if they take the other stance, then maybe they lose like less money through their donors that are trying to take this like bad stance that the general public completely disagrees with. So it's like
hmm,
I think like in theory there would be like some way to model it out like as some like form like payoff like oh
yeah,
this side or this side, but like I think like in general it's like that's just kind of a depressing way to think about it. It's just like oh yeah, whoever has more money can just have a bigger say, and like
yeah,
if you don't have money you don't get any power. So like
yeah.
I mean I think
Like
yeah.
I think another way to think about it is that like as you said, like a lot of the students like they either aren't informed enough or they just like don't want to
Yeah.
like they just don't want to speak up, right? Like
Hmm.
and I think this is like something that's a lot more well, I don't know if it's a lot more, but it's like a better problem to tackle because I think it's like I don't know. Like I think it's easier, not saying it's easy, but it's easier to get like a majority of a student population to believe in a cause if it's like substantial enough. But obviously with the Israel Palestine thing, like a lot of this, like even though like these like universities are taking all this money from these donors, like unless like you're actively like informed about like the like what's really going on, like life kind of like continues as normal for like a lot of STEM majors, right? They don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
like know
exactly.
about
Yeah.
what's going on, right? Like I guess it's like kind of hard to like make these students like want to care, I guess.
Yeah,
But I think
there's
like that
nothing
would
in
be
it
the
for
best
them.
way to
There's like yeah, I agree.
yeah. But I think that would be the best way to like handle this situation. But I don't know, like it doesn't have to be like it could be like some positive incentive. I don't know if you had any ideas.
I mean I feel like one of like people in general would speak on their opinions more if there wasn't public backlash. I think this goes back to my idea about like cancel culture in this generation is like very, very bad.
Yeah.
And people are just in general, like especially like students our age are just very scared to speak on their opinions. Like obviously no one wants to be the person that gets kicked out of college for speaking about something.
Yeah.
So like and like because the bar of like saying it might not even be something like really, really bad, like that's just like objectively bad. It might just be you even wanting to say your own opinion, and because people disagree with that opinion, and the school just takes action on that, that's like, I mean, people, obviously you don't want to be that person, and like, I mean, I feel like because of that, people are just like they just don't want to have opinions in general.
Yeah.
Um, like they just want to stay neutral, and I think that's fine, right? Like staying neutral, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're like under like assumption that like you need more people to take stronger stances in general, that would have to come from like essentially like a societal change, as
But
opposed to just like a
I
single
feel like
college. Mhm.
um like allowing like people to voice like strong opinions that
Yeah.
like that also comes with its downsides, right? Not everybody is like in support of Palestine in
Right.
a school, right? And like
Yeah.
when you have like these discussions to where like people's like lives are being
Yeah.
like
Right.
essentially ruined, right? Like it's like these discussions are like by default like very charged. So like
Hmm.
because what I was going to say is like, oh, like we could like perhaps like create a more open space, but that's not like it's not very easy, right? Like I
Yeah.
think that like obviously the internet, but another thing is like politics these days, it's like a very like uh like some like issues it's like it's very hard to sympathize with the other side, I guess. Like for example, Israel Palestine, like there are obviously like Palestinian lives, like Israeli lives being lost, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you have like a stance, it's like it's not easy to come to a middle ground with the other because like they're actively like killing like the
Hmm.
civilians, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
so like um I'd
No,
say
I
like
mean,
on
I
this like
get what
a
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah
Like when there's like very strong, like this isn't just like, oh yeah, I like ice cream, you like water ice. Some
yeah
like
yeah yeah
stupid
right.
example like that, like
Yeah
active like lives are being lost, where like it's
yeah.
very like hard to like kind of
I
like
guess my
think.
point is that like if you
Mhm.
have a side, like you're basically like sticking to that side when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah,
obviously
right.
the Israel
Yeah,
Palestine conflict. Yeah,
I agree. That's definitely a part of it, I
yeah,
would say. I mean, I
and
think
like
in general, like discussions, like
yeah,
there aren't any more like discussions. It's all just like low-key like hateful debates, if that's like a good
yeah,
way to put it, where it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just like
No, I'd
you're
agree. Yeah,
attacking the other side and you're not like coming to
Mhm.
like a proper like agreement in any sense.
Well, it says
Um,
like a majority of the information is known by like both sides. It's just like how they interpret it. I
you're right,
guess
right.
like
Yeah, that's
the
also
narrative they're
definitely.
pushing. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Um. So that so it's pretty hard for like I guess like students to change their opinion or like speak more publicly. Um, so in terms of like getting more power, or I guess like it ties with money, right? Like obviously tenured professors can like speak out.
Yeah,
Like I don't think maybe you disagree, but I don't think it affect their career too much. If they're tenured, like they're basically staying in their job, right?
I think
Um,
it's. I mean, yeah, probably to the most part,
like
it's
the point
pretty
of being
fun.
tenured is so that you can speak about more controversial things, but like obviously your job is still in jeopardy if you're like actively like standing up for like Palestine.
Hmm.
But like, do you think there's a difference between like a professor speaking out about Palestine specifically and a professor like defending students for being punished for activism? Because like I'm thinking like the
Um,
consequence would the consequence be the same? Or like, and we're talking about tenured professors, right?
I
Like,
mean, I think it's
univer-
probably based on the school.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I don't really know how like
yeah, that's
politics
fine.
work in that sense. Like I mean, in a perfect world, obviously I would hope like neither of them have like any repercussions, but I don't I don't really know. I mean, kind of sucks as a student. You kind of feel like a minion at these
Yeah,
colleges where you just like sure there's like oh I'm like because when you go to college it's like you like kind of like an adult in a sense. You kind of like have like
yeah,
freedom. But
yeah,
suddenly your freedom is not exactly freedom and you still are controlled in some sense.
yeah.
I
Do you think
mean,
that implies that like free speech is not applied equally like across universities if
definitely not.
repercussions depend on the
Free
school?
speech is sure you can say whatever you want, but some things are going to definitely have worse results than others. That's one way to put it. Or like different consequences, I suppose. I guess. I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you want at the end of the day. Like whatever
Mhm.
comes out of your mouth can come out of your mouth. But I mean, it like it's really dependent on.
Yeah.
what environment you're in and
Yeah.
what
Um,
you're saying, I
yeah.
suppose.
So like it's clear, like what matters most from across administrators, donors, public like image, like is whoever has like the most money that's willing to speak out,
Yeah,
right? Or like the
I
most power.
think money kind of runs the world around, and as a result,
Yeah.
these colleges are
Well,
forced
like
to
it's because the
take
college
its
is a
students.
business that money
Yeah,
runs
yeah,
through the college.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of good things were discussed here.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I think it's really helpful. I think what I'm hearing is that universities should protect both like students and professors from punishment when they
Mhm.
speak or protest. But in reality, these protections depend on the school, like all like the politics, like the donors, and like public pressure. So,
Yeah.
um, like what would I think would make universities actually protect dissent like consistently instead of like only when it's convenient? I think the best thing we as students can do is like create an environment for open discussion, but like that's obviously very hard because of the things that we said earlier. But I think it's like the easiest way because like especially at a school like Berkeley, like a majority of the student is left or the student population is left because we live in California, right? So it's like it's it's not easy, but it's easier for like us as a student population to come to a consensus like okay, like this thing is wrong, right? Okay, like
Yeah.
Berkeley like obviously has to divest from like its don like these bad donors, right? And then like in my opinion, like it's easier for a majority of us as a population, and like maybe like other schools can see this and like basically like oh and like take it as inspiration, like maybe like so like I think the best way for change, like in my opinion, would be like to find the schools or like um a majority of the population's like political opinion is like strong sided like to a side and then like have them like I guess like publicly protest, maybe disagree, but I think like I don't know, I feel like that'd be like the best way to go about it
Yeah,
because
I
like
mean, I think discussions are definitely a good way. I think it does go back to the idea that like in general, people don't want to change their opinions. People don't go to discussions to be like, maybe my opinion about this will change. No, they go to discussion to argue so that their opinion
yeah.
is like
But
to
I
try
would
to
also
change
say,
other
but
people.
I would also say a majority of the student population is like pretty unaware about like the Palestine-Israel
Yeah,
conflict.
definitely that. I mean, maybe that's their target. Just to I think if you inform more people in general, then as
Yeah,
long as they make their decision, something better will probably happen.
yeah,
But I think if the point of this discussion is kind of to like change the opposing side, I don't think that will. I mean, just like I think it's human
yeah. I
nature to
agree.
not want to change your opinion about something. Like if I'm arguing about something, I think it's very hard for me to change my opinion. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Like in terms of like getting more people like to be aware of like Israeli Palestine, like I don't think there's an easy way. I think like just like telling people about it if they're not willing to like hear about it, it's like pretty useless. Like they have to be actively seeking out like more information, right? And like there's no really like incentive if like none of their things are changing. Like let's say I'm a math major, right? I have a
Mhm.
specific career I want to go into. Like there's no like incentive for me to like learn about like Israel Palestine. Like really, right? Like obviously it's like good to be informed and like these things do matter. I'm not saying they don't, but like to someone who's like field is basically protected because they are ignorant because like their funding is like intact because they are ignorant. Like it's very hard to get them to care about something
Yeah,
like that. Um,
deep discussion, very deep discussion.